Hello guys. I was thinking that since the new Switch is kind of already coming out, I went to sip through all the Switch games that I had kind of accumulated over the whole lifespan of the console, and I kind of feel like I had a really good balance list. So I wanted to drop my personal top 10 for it and talk about them a bit. So for I'll start at number 10. I have honorable mentions. As number 12, I have Hades, and as number 11, I have Resident Evil. So these two are kind of masterpieces in their own right. I just kind of value all the games before it, or like I'll be more inclined to play everything else before them. Even though I think the Resident Evil is a masterpiece that kind of introduced a lot of new concepts that would go on to shape the shooter, and I think it was even like one that Dead Space said that it was heavily inspired by Resident Evil 4. And then you have Hades, which is like this roguelike that's very interestingly formatted and angled in such a clever way where everything kind of loops back into its central concept of kind of just dying and coming back. So here you kind of have the mythology to it, and how explaining how he's trapped in Hades. He's trapped with Hades in hell, and how the repetitive nature of his life can be seen as an allegory for the format of the game, which I would say that they're both perfect games, but like I said, better. So cracking into the top 10 of the top Switch games that you could have accessible to your Switch right now, I would say is The Binding of Isaac Aftermath, or Afterbirth, which is a new expansion that came for it. And I wanted to say that to say that it's better than Resident Evil, right? I don't believe that. In fact, I don't believe that any of these at this point are kind of better than each other. I just believe that, to personal opinion, these are to me the best, and The Binding of Isaac is actually one of my favorite games, as I kind of like the deep lore it has and the intricate way it tells its story, and I feel like it's such a chaotic thing that came together to make such a cohesive product, where you have the biblical illusions, you have the mechanical depth, you have the storytelling happening, but it's done in such a creative and unique way that you don't really have this game in another form. And it's a game that it's very video gamey, and it just kind of satisfies that part of my brain where I can just hop on and have a run, and that even just having runs, even I feel like having runs are the perfect length, and you could also mess with the length by like your choices. But after that, as my number 9th, I included Dragon Ball FighterZ C, which under my opinion, I think it's probably the best fighting game of all time, maybe best 2D fighting game of all time, and that is very subjective, but I will talk about it like it's subjective. So here you have Dragon Ball, the objectively most action-packed punch fighting manga / anime of all time, that's also iconic and has gone on to inspire pretty much everything that came after it. And then you take that and you give it to some of the best guys in fighting games, and then you tell them to make a fighting game about Dragon Ball where they actually do that with complex mechanics inside of them, and the animation is done almost kind of as an Easter egg to the quality of the original, of the art of the original. It feels like every input or every execution with a character is an Easter egg to something they did in the show, and thanks to the animation it pops out even more. And I feel like it's something that a lot of games should take at their inspiration in the way that they look or their artistic design, kind of like Breath of the Wild. But anyways, that being my number 9th, I'm gonna move on to number 8. So for number 8, I chose Batman Arkham City, which I feel like Batman Arkham City is the best Batman Arkham game, because I feel that it's in that perfect middle length where they have enough of the formula established, where they're at this point just refining, and they took everything that worked from the first game and kind of fixed it, in my opinion, like the open world. And I also consider the first game more of a how would you say, Metroidvania style, where you kind of need abilities to unlock where to go when you really think about it. But in this one, you kind of have more of an open world where you're exploring Arkham City. But I was thinking in the sense that maybe you're losing some things from Arkham Knight, but and if I'm honest, I didn't really like all the advancements they put into Arkham Knight. I felt like it was a tad too bit into making the thing too complicated. And so I also do feel that in the first game you kind of have where there's nailing down all the ideas and stuff, but then on the second game, Arkham City, you kind of already have the perfection of those ideas back in the first game. But I feel like Arkham Knight more so focuses on the experience, like giving you all the bells and whistles. But I also feel like this one is told more than a comic book, even by the way that it starts. And Batman Arkham City is a perfect game in my opinion. It perfectly simulates and gets you into the headspace of Batman, and I feel like it kind of became my definitive Batman, like when I think about it, because I feel like it's such a good way to roleplay that character. But moving on to my number 7, I have Hollow Knight, and I think Hollow Knight is kind of what happens when you have a game developer, Nintendo, and I guess the guys that make Castlevania, they develop the formula for the Metroidvania, and then you kind of have them moving on with their IP to do other things, and I guess they went into Metro Prime and stuff. But then you have the people that actually took all those ideas as their children and kind of have the lifespan to like grow and culminate those ideas. And then you have Hollow Knight, which is, I feel, it's like a perfect refinement of those ideas established back when we had the original Symphony of the Night and Metroid, and now you have Hollow Knight, which kind of does everything that these two were going for, but in that pure way. So now you have Hollow Knight, and I do want to kind of quickly break down the world of Hollow Knight and how massive it is when the two stays, and how I kind of feel like this is low-key like an open world, but like in 2D, and it kind of just is this great combination of gaming where now kind of like how when you're like in the world of books, you get like a written book that will go on to be like a classic, and it's just kind of like an example of a book. I feel like Hollow Knight is such a video game that it kind of transcends the genre and became this like thing that everybody grabs onto when they want to talk about games, like, oh, Hollow Knight, and then we have Silksong coming, hopefully maybe one day in 3 years, 5 years, 80 years, but number 7 for sure. There's a reason why people are excited for the next one. And yeah, the team is very small, and I feel like that worked, made their ideas more concise. But after that, I got Dark Souls Remastered, which it kind of sucks that you don't really have any more From Software games available. But I mean, if you are gonna have one, I guess you would have Dark Souls, and this is the remastered version, so it kind of just brings up it just includes it's Dark Souls on the Switch. It's Dark Souls, one of the best games of all time. I don't need to really bring up anything to have people question that, but now I have it accessed in the Switch as my number 6. So after Dark Souls, I decided to include Minecraft as my number 5, which I think is kind of justifiable as like one of the best-selling games of all time. It kind of like is the perfect farmer creative sandbox style game. It's the like sandbox style mining game. It's Minecraft. I think it's the best-selling game of all time, and that's kind of where I should really stop. But after that one, I decided to include GTA San Andreas from the Definitive Edition, and I know that a lot of people didn't really mess with the Definitive Edition as much because they didn't like the way that it was emulated. But at the end of the day, I kind of feel like all we're doing is emulating things at this point, and I just kind of wanted a GTA accessible to the Switch. And yeah, I mean, I would say that the best GTA games of all time are GTA 5 and GTA San Andreas, and everything else is kind of just an afterthought, in my opinion. But I'm glad to have GTA San Andreas, the myth, the legend, and something I grew up with in my Switch. But that's my top 4, and now we're tracking into the last 3. So as number 3, I have The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, and it might look weird that I don't have Breath of the Wild, but I also this comes from my top 100th list, and I don't know if you guys want to see a video on that, but you can let me know. But in this list, where it's the top 10, I kind of needed to put I wanted to stress like diverse and gameplay loops, and I just felt like Tears of the Kingdom is just an upgraded version of Breath of the Wild when you don't retroactively have the whole experience of you burning Breath of the Wild for like 3 years straight and getting burned out on that world. But I kind of played Tears of the Kingdom after, and I feel like it satisfied something in me where I kind of look for more complexity in my games, and I kind of felt like all the objectives in Breath of the Wild were relatively simple when you really break it down. But yeah, I still love them, and it's top 3 because it's like out of everything you could get in the Switch, you should be thoroughly entertained in the Hyrule Kingdom for sure. But after that, I decided to include as my second place, and I can kind of have 1 and 2 be like swapped because I think they're the greatest games you can get on the Switch, like straight up. But at number 2, we have Mario Kart 8, which is, I think, definitively the best Mario Kart. It has to be, with like all double the stages and where it's going and the amounts that it's sold. I think it's the best-selling Switch game, though. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure, I was reading a long time ago that it was one of the evergreen games, which means that it's always selling, despite the time, not just when it came out or the opening weeks. But I do have a game before that, which you guys kind of could already tell if you guys didn't. I have Smash Brothers, which I feel is the greatest Switch game of all time. It's the fighting game, it's the history, it's the benchmark, and this is actually my first Switch game that kind of laid out the blueprint for my whole library, because I kind of felt like I wanted to include a game from every series inside my own Switch, because I kind of see my Switch more about library style collection. But I kind of just wanted to include a diverse range of all the gaming loops you can kind of find, and I did refine it to like 100, where you could kind of get 100 of like different gameplays and stuff. But I just wanted to drop a quick video on my top 10, and I feel like those are the top 10. Kind of like if you were to buy like yourself a Switch Lite, and in my opinion, buy yourself those 10 games, I don't think you should be fine. But that's it for the video. Drop a like, leave a subscription, and do all the things to show engagement so I can stop working. Thank you.